episode is for all of the analytical chemists out there who want to know how they can move into new areas and find questions that are of biological relevance. Thank you for joining us once again. Hi, Michael. Welcome to OMg OMx. I'm so excited that we're expanding our roster of guests this year to Europe, and you are our first one. And so I was hoping that we could start off with you telling me about your personal story and how you've made science work for you.
Hello, it's my great pleasure to be invited. So, concerning the start of my scientific career, I have started to do my PhD in the group of Professor Yandera, who was one of the world leaders in chromatography. At the time, it was the installation of first LCMS system in Czech Republic in this group. It was 1995. And from the beginning, I was really fascinated by mass spectrometry because it was really the added value to the chromatography what we used, because the mass spectrum can provide the information about the molecular mass of individual compounds, about the fragment ions, and it was possible to elucidate the structure. So from the beginning, I paid the same focus on both chromatography and mass spectrometry, which later on was really a big advantage in the comparison of many other people who focused either on chromatography or mass spectrometry, but typically not both. And during this time, for the first time, we analyzed some lipids. At that time, it was the analysis of the mixture from the biodiesel production containing some tri, di, and monacylglycerols. And we developed some methods, and it was really nice to see the regularities in structures of lipids because they have repeating units like methylene groups, double bonds, and then you can follow the regular retention behavior, regularities in fragmentation, and then this was the start, my first touch with the world of lipids. And then later I continued from lipid analysis to lipidomics and so on.
So tell me a little bit more about how you really got into science in your early years. Did you have some moment that just made you go, OMG, I love chemistry. This is the path that I want to take?
Uh, Actually, I'm a person with the preference of, I would say, technical natural sciences. I like the nature, and I like the science which is, I would say, precise. So for me, this social sciences is probably not the target. And I was the person in the student laboratories. I was always very accurate. Yeah. With all measurements, I wish to be really very accurate, precise, just to do everything correctly. That's why I am analytical chemist. Yeah. That in analytical chemistry, we try to do perfect calibrations, method validations, and to determine accurately the concentrations. If you have a few molecules, it's not so complicated, but when we are talking about some omic sciences, for example, lipidomics, what we are doing, or metabolomics, then it's really more difficult because it's impossible to have internal standards, especially expensive isotopically labeled standards for every molecule, but you must do some simplifications. And then to determine the concentrations of hundreds of molecules in a relatively short time in automated fashion, this is definitely not trivial. So some compromises must be taken into account because it cannot be absolutely perfect, like in case of pharmaceutical industry, where you have in pharmaceutical analysis you may have one drug and you need to determine accurately the concentration. So you buy labeled standard and you do everything perfectly. But if you want to do the same for 500 or more lipids, that's impossible.
So tell me how you focused on that. I know that you've done a lot of things in method development. You've done a lot of things with data analysis. And how has all of this come together and utilized the tool of mass spectrometry to advance identifications?
Mhm. In previous years, we have developed many new methods for the separation, identification, and quantitation of lipids. And at each step, we have realized that something is missing. So, for example, we have developed the new software for the data processing because the available softwares were lacking some features what we needed for proper data processing, or we developed new methods using, for example, helic mode, or implemented supercritical fluid chromatography. And we always investigated these cutting edge technologies. So at the moment, we have our new lovely instrumentation, Teams Ultra, which was installed here in September. And now we really love to develop new method focused on the separation of very similar molecules, some lipid isomers. And we have already tested and separated the isomers of glucosyl and galactosyl ceramides, which are almost identical molecules with very small differences in terms of collision cross section. And we have already the methodology that we can separate them. This is pretty unique. You need really higher resolving power in terms of ion mobility, but we have this methodology. Now we will implement this into our LCMS workflows, and it could be applied for high throughput routing analysis. But for this purpose, you really need very high resolving power in ion mobility. And on the market, I know only two solutions which may be used for this purpose. But this solution of TIMS is for us a little bit better because this is not only high resolution, but also wide coverage. That you don't need to focus on the isolated small mass window of few molecules, but you may cover at the same moment everything. And this is the reason why we decided for this technology. And now, in the near future, we will show applications.
I love that you just said applications because, with your fundamental analytical nature, how have you decided what biological questions to go after? How have you gotten involved in the bigger picture in that way?
In past years, many years ago, I was the classical academician doing just the basic research and publishing papers and so on. But at certain time, I have realized that if some person out of science will ask me, and Michael, you are doing some research, and what is this good for? So it was quite complicated to explain that we do some detailed analysis of regioisomers of triacylglycerols and so on. No one out of science could understand such answer. So at the time, I realized we need some application which will be good for, I would say, humankind. And I was searching for some topic which could be also applicable for some big run projects like on ERC scale. And I decided for cancer for obvious reason that the tumor, the cancer means that these cells are somehow changed, that the cell proliferation, it means cell division, is performed extremely fast, and then one cell is divided into two and four and so on. And this is extremely fast process. And this process must be facilitated by sufficient amount of building material to create new cells. And cells are, I would say, captured together by membranes, cell membranes. And these membranes are formed by lipid bilayers. So you need a lot of lipids. So it means that at certain moment you need the supply of a significant amount of lipids for this cell proliferation. And obviously, it was anticipated that the lipidomic composition of normal cells and tumor cells must be different. This was confirmed. And later we continued just to go to biological fluids and, for example, human plasma or serum or urine. And then we confirmed for various types of cancer that there are lipid dysregulations. And we also obtained some patents for this, for the possibility of early detection of pancreatic cancer and kidney cancer based on lipidomic analysis of human blood. And the accuracy is really very high. At the moment, for pancreatic cancer, we are over 90 or even 95% of accuracy. So the percentage of these errors is pretty low. Yeah. So for clinicians, this is something what they really like very much. And at this moment, we already have some steps towards the translation. It's almost 2 years when we established the spin-off company Lipidica. And the goal of this spin-off company is to translate this academical research into a real clinical practice. So at the moment, we should start within a few months. We should start the clinical validation of our methodology for real high risk people uh, with a high risk for occurrence of pancreatic cancer. So this is the next step of our application and translation into the real world, what I would say common people could appreciate.
Tell me a little bit more about that process and the timeline to go through discovery to find a biomarker, to assess the actual validity of it, and then to implement it the way that you're doing so. This couldn't have been fast.
It's not fast at all. Yeah. So if I go back, this was in 2017 when I co-chaired the HPLC 2017 conference in Prague. It was in June. And at the same time, my Austrian colleague Denis Volrab started to work in my group. And I remember that already in August, she showed me the first preliminary data, which was totally fascinating for me. Perfect resolution of healthy controls and pancreatic cancer patients. So I said, well, this is impossible. It's some mistake in measurement. So I asked to repeat everything. It was the same. Then we did it using different methodology. And again, it was the same. So then in January 2018, we applied for our first patent in my life, because I was not aware of this business at all. So after like 2.5 years, we obtained this patent. For me, this was pretty slow, but patent lawyers said that this was very fast. And then later we applied for another patent, which is also granted at the moment. And in 2022, we established the spin-off company Lipidica, and the same year we published the paper in Nature Communications. This was like process of more than 3 years, that initially we submitted to some nature journals, and it was always rejected with the claim that it's I would say in too preliminary stage. So then we decided to send samples to our cooperators to Germany and Singapore, and they measured all these over 500 samples using their methodology. And then we combined the data sets and verified that this is not just the data which may be obtained in one laboratory, but anyone with experience with lipidomic analysis can obtain the same conclusions. And then it was really convincing, and the paper was accepted. And at the moment, it belongs to the 1% of most cited papers in this field of research. So we are really excited, but we continue. So we know that we got also ERC Advanced Grant Project, and now we are starting to focus on the mechanism of these dysregulations. It's already proven that this methodology may be used for early cancer detection, but the next obvious question, and probably even more important, is what is behind, what is the mechanism of these dysregulations. So we are just trying to understand the biological mechanism. Therefore, our cooperators created the mice model with pancreatic cancer. We obtained tissue samples, plasma samples, and these samples will be distributed over cooperating metabolomic facilities, proteomic analysis, transcriptomic analysis, and all lipidomic workflows what we have. Then we will combine it in multi-omics concept, and we will try just to combine it to understand the metabolic pathways which are dysregulated. Because there is this biological cascade starting from DNA, RNA, proteins, and then metabolome. So we hope that we will find these collections. We have already some hypotheses. So we just need to confirm and go further.
It's such a fantastic story. And I see all of the different elements that you've pulled together to make this happen: the software, the separations, the detection, the data analysis. Were you intentional in bringing all of this together, or did it just happen as you continued to ask questions throughout your career?
Well, I have never planned that I will be scientist or do such career. It's just going step by step. So we have some curiosity and we have some research questions. So we try to do it the best way to understand it, but we don't know what will be around the corner. Yeah? So when we have the problem, we are doing our best, and then we see the next. Yeah? But it's important to emphasize that I'm not doing this alone. Yeah? I have not measured any data for a couple of years, but I have my younger cooperators, we have students, postdoc, and all these people are really motivated. So they are so enthusiastic just to do the best measurement or develop the methods. So I'm just helping them and facilitating this work by consulting and presenting the data, helping with this concept. So this is basically the work of really talented and hardworking co-workers in my group. And this is not only people in my group, but we have also cooperators. We have medical doctors who are coming with samples, with these biological samples from patients. They are coming also with the ideas, what they need. We have biological cooperators which form these hypotheses because I don't have education in this area. So we have really the network of many cooperators, and all these people contribute with some important step, this individual portion of this mosaic to make everything working together.
Tell me how you've learned to talk to some of these different groups. Again, because you're integrating so many things and your training is fundamental analytical chemistry, how have you learned how to speak with and show off some of your methods in order to get buy in from the medical doctors?
At the beginning, this was really difficult because we were speaking completely different language. Because you have some slang, even in my own Czech language, it was quite difficult to understand each other. But after some time, if you are patient and open minded, you try to explain them what you can provide and vice versa. At the moment, I am presenting relatively frequently, even at medical conferences. Of course, they understand very easily that I'm not a medical doctor but just analytical chemist, but I know how to present these things and how to understand these basic questions. I don't have education, that's obvious, but I'm able to understand what is the standard practice and the way of communication. This was one of the most difficult steps in these corporations, try to understand each other. Yeah. So from time to time, we go for dinner, take some beer or glass of wine, and we discuss about the future. What is the next step? And we are already friends because we cooperate with some of them for so many years. And without this contribution, we would be never at this stage where we are at the moment. So making these bridges among different fields, that's very important.
You again hit on a fantastic topic. In order to make advancements, you have to work together in order to move forward. So, what do you think is next? What does the ultimate success look like for the cancer research you've started?
That's relatively simple. The next goal is, actually, there are two goals. One is to translate this methodology into the clinical practice. This is, I would say, commercial branch realized in the spin-off company Lipidica, just to make this test available in the Czech Republic and later in other countries. So this would be a really huge success. But I strongly believe that this is just question of time, and we should succeed. But the second goal is the scientific goal to explain the mechanism of these dysregulations. And this is the goal within the area of biology, which is very complicated for me. And I strongly rely on these cooperators. So, to explain the mechanism of these changes may have consequences even for the future treatment of these patients, because then if you understand the metabolic path which is dysregulated, then you may think about some inhibitors or activators for this particular path and eventually use certain drug just to cure these people. So this is again, not task for us, but if we understand the mechanism, the metabolic pathway, then other people can continue this job and put it even to higher level. So the biological mechanism is the top. If we can make this, then it would be really fascinating, but it will be really a lot of work. So this is this multi-omic connection which should be done within this ERC. So at this moment we have 5 years for this research. So we will see how far we can go. We will do our best.
I think you've made some really great strides already. So I don't really have any doubts that you're going to continue to succeed here. I've enjoyed hearing about your professional path that you've taken, but what else do you do in your life to balance all of this science focus? What else are you interested in?
From my childhood, I really love sport. Yeah, I practice many kinds of sports. Of course, on the first place, it was always football, or soccer. But I like many other things like skiing, running, going to the mountains for hiking, and many other sports. And this is absolutely perfect relaxation. That after the work, if you make such activities, it's really refreshing. So now it's winter time here, so it's dark relatively early. So if I return like at 6 p.m. home, typically I take my headlight for running and I go to the forest, and that's really refreshing. Yeah. And mostly I combine this with my family, yeah, because I have two boys, 15 and 17, and they also love sport. They practice football and skiing as well. So we like to go together for some activities, for cycling or skiing. Well, that's what I really like, and this is integral part of my life. Yeah. Of course, I'm coming from Czech Republic, so we have, I would say, the best beer in the world. So I like also very much to taste a little bit during the evening together with the dinner, good beer or good wine. So I'm open to any nice activities in the life. So or go to the nature. So that's not only the science. I'm working hard, but I have also other activities as well.
All right. So to close out, you mentioned a little bit earlier about communicating, about having to learn different languages. So you clearly speak English. I assume you speak Czech since you're Czech. And then you also have to be able to speak science in different ways. Maybe you could say a little bit about how this has had an impact on your ability to communicate with others. And if you have any advice for newer scientists who are looking to build some of these bridges.
The driving force is always to be fascinated by science, by solving possible problems. Yeah. So if you like the work, then definitely you should go to the best possible university, select the best possible supervisor for doing your PhD, and then definitely go abroad to gain more experiences in other culture environment. In my group, we have people from various locations, not only Czech Republic, but half of the group is coming from abroad. We have one colleague is from Argentina. We have people from Poland, Kosovo, in past Austria, Italy, and so on. And my people are at the moment in Belgium, Singapore. So we have many connections, many cooperations. So people should be, I would say, open-minded and to keep certain respect to other cultures, other nationalities, and also other research fields, and take just positive things as the feedback for you. Of course, something is better there, and vice versa. There are always some disadvantages. So simply be open-minded and try to get the best for you, and rather connect the people, connect the scientific fields, and take the benefit for you. That's my advice.
Well, thank you so much for joining today. I've enjoyed hearing about your story and getting to know you. And I hope that at some point we have the chance to clink our beer glasses together with a nice Czech beer.
Thank you very much. It was my pleasure to meet you and to talk to you.
I hope you'll continue to stay tuned with us this year as we bring you new visitors from across the globe. We've expanded to Europe and we're looking to bring in someone from Australia for you in the near future. Have a good day.